Are you thinking about starting over in your career? Maybe starting a business? You're not alone. My new book, Start Your Second Act: How to Change Careers, Launch a Business, and Create Your Best Life, is your step by step guide to making this transition with confidence. Learn how to plan your exit, find the right business idea, and build a career that truly lights you up. If you are ready to stop dreaming and start doing, grab your copy today. Start Your Second Act is available for pre order right now at startyoursecondact.com. All right, let's get ready for a new episode of the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I had the incredible opportunity to sit down with Michal Morrison. She is the founder of a cutting edge skincare company rooted in science and powered by groundbreaking stem cell technology. However, Michal started her career as an archaeologist. That's right, she was traveling the world, discovering ancient artifacts. This was all until everything changed when she found herself in a car crash, surviving with a traumatic brain injury. Michal came out on the other side deciding she wanted to take control of her life and her career, and that is when she launched her own skincare company. Michal is an entrepreneur committed to social impact, championing causes around women's health and gender equality. Let's dive in. This is my conversation with entrepreneur and founder, Michal Morrison. Are you ready to quit your 9 to 5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. I am a former television producer turned business owner, career transition coach, and boy mom. My mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Michal Morrison, thank you so much for being here. I've been looking forward to our conversation to hear all about your career, your second acts. But let's take it back to the beginning. Where did your career begin?
Well, I'm really excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me. My career began in a totally different field than I'm currently working in. When I graduated from Texas A&M in 2012, and I have degrees in history and English literature. And I jumped right into archaeology, actually. I went on my first archaeological excavation when I was in college to Greece, which was a life-changing event for me. And I ended up working on archaeological projects and historic preservation projects around the world after that. And so that's where my career started. I went from Greece to Turkey. I've worked in the Emirates actually for the royal family, which was an incredible experience. In Ireland, I've worked in the Caribbean. And so that was just a lot of fun, to say the least.
Was that your dream since you were little? Did you know that you wanted to get your hands dirty and dig around and really study history in that way?
Yeah. So I have been really fortunate. I grew up in a family of readers. My parents gave that gift to me. And my mom was a history teacher, and my dad's really interested in history. And so it really runs in the family. We spend Christmas Day wrapped up in books. That's how we like to celebrate together. And so it was definitely in line with how I was raised to pursue a history degree. Archaeology became part of that. I was 2 classes away from an anthropology degree, like a third degree. And that still keeps me up at night, those 2 classes. So yeah, I've been really passionate about history for a long time. Geology as well, actually. I really considered that path. Most of the time there is a geologist on an archaeological dig at some point. And so I thought about that. My dad's really interested in that too. And so my parents really encouraged me to pursue all of my curiosities and interests. And so I think that's probably what led me to archaeology.
What an incredible dream job, I think, for a lot of people to think about it, but it seems so far off. Like, oh, I couldn't really do that, but you did it. Really inspiring, I think. And to see the world in such a way as you're learning and you're helping, how incredible. And so you did that, you got to see so much. And then what was the next step on your journey?
So this part of the story is not typical. I never anticipated going into business or becoming an entrepreneur, but I was home from a project. Um, I guess I had just gotten home a few months previous to that from Ireland, and I was in a really bad car accident and suffered a very severe traumatic brain injury. And I was, if I wasn't at the doctor for a year, I was in bed. And, for the first 6 months, slept for 20 hours a day. And for the next 6 months, slept maybe 2 hours a day. And very severe memory challenges, severe aphasia, which will occasionally come up for me depending on my stress level and how much I'm doing. Just a very severe experience with a brain injury. So that really ate up about 3 years of my life, really going into the fourth year of that. And it's been 8 years now, a little over 8 years, which is amazing to me that that much time has passed. Eventually got to a good doctor up in Pittsburgh and was able to get some good help, but took a long time. And so my body is not down for the really intense lifestyle of excavating. I am somebody who I joke about it, but I should have a punch card at the local ER. I really should. I keep people in business in the medical field. And so I just need to be more cognizant of that when I travel. I need to be close to medical care. I really provide a lot of accommodations to myself as an entrepreneur. And so looking at that, I was like, the corporate space as a disabled person is really going to be hard. And I applied for a good number of jobs as I had recovered and was trying to get back into being able to take care of myself, which was a huge step for me because I had been told by a neurologist that I would never recover. I'd never live alone, never be able to support myself, never be able to hold a job again. And so I don't know the answer to this, but I do wonder sometimes how many people, either who've had brain injuries or just disability in general, end up being entrepreneurs because they can't find accommodations and safe workspaces for them in the corporate world. And so 2020 rolled around. My accident was in 2016.
Okay.
And I was married at the time. And, we were stuck in our house. And I had thought about starting a skincare company for a long time. My mom has struggled a lot with skin cancer. And so I felt very motivated around the potential science that I could get my hands on if I could and acquire something really interesting. And so that's what I ended up doing. I used 2020 to, one, do about 6 months of research on the beauty industry before diving in. And then I was really fortunate to be introduced to people who became part of my team and officially started the company in 2020 and started about 2 years of development after that. And we launched in 22.
How amazing. What a change. What a shift in
Wow.
because I want to talk about the fact that you were living this kind of dream role, traveling the world, working as an archaeologist, and then having this brain injury, and it halts everything. And I think that
Yeah.
must have been a big adjustment, I'm assuming, for you to realize I'm not going to be able to go back and live and work in that capacity any longer, or at least not right now. And for you to think about how you're going to now take your skills and your experience and put that into work in another field or working for someone else. And what was that contemplation like of where you were looking at yourself in the situation you were in, unfortunately, and having to pivot?
I appreciate you asking that. Looking back on that, when, disappointment isn't even the right word, it was devastating, as health stuff can be for a lot of people. I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a story like that too, is that they ran into a disappointment, whether it was with their health or something else. And that one was one of the big defining experiences of my life. It required, and I did answer the call, but it was hard. It required a lot of spiritual growth. And that wasn't religious for me. It was more spiritual and internal. MDR, I got a lot of support after that experience. And I needed that to re-enter the world. I felt very vulnerable. This feeling of what if something else bad happens? And none of us can answer that question. But staying in the house was not an option for me. I've been very curious. I need intellectual stimulation. I like a challenge. And so entrepreneurship has fit me really well, but it took me a while. And there's still days that I have that aren't the best, but I've come to grips with the loss. What was particularly hard is that it was the second half of my 20s that I really lost, which is a time that most people associate with feeling very vibrant and social. And I didn't get to do that. That had been the case earlier in my life. And I had to set that aside and focusing on recovery. There's just no way around it. The only way out through. And so now I know a bit better to, head down into the wind when something tough comes up because you don't have a choice. And the longer you that, the more miserable you're going to be. And so I would never have described myself as a go with the flow person previously. But now I am, I think, a little bit more, as I'm more adaptable than before. And you definitely need that as an entrepreneur.
Yes, that is so true. And I think maybe it is a blessing in a sense that it happened to you when you were young so that you were a little bit more resilient and could say, okay, I'm taking this time to take care of myself and heal myself. And now what is that second act? What else can I do? And I
Hmm.
think, when you started thinking about what else you could do, was entrepreneurship the first thing, or were you looking for jobs maybe in your field where you could work remotely? Or where did the idea of entrepreneurship come about before you came up with the idea of working in skincare?
Hmm. Well, I started with contract work. So I did a lot of thought leadership help with startups, ironically, before I ever thought that I would have my own. But 2020, I think being shut away in the house and feeling like this is a time, if it's ever going to be, it would be now. And ironically, I already knew how to survive a year in the house. And because of my experience with my brain injury, I'd already done it. And, also being more vulnerable as part of, the population that has chronic health issues. I really didn't leave my house very much except for groceries for really the entirety of 2020,
Mhm.
which, a lot of people were anxious about the 8-week thing. Like, I've already done this. I already know how to do this. I already know how to make the most of being at home. And so I really started to consider it. I took a lot of classes. I took an entrepreneurship class called the Guild, and it's for women. And I believe women identifying entrepreneurs that really helped give me the groundwork for it. So I did this sort of not quite timid, but very deliberate exploration before I dove all the way in. But then I felt like, I can do this. I never took a business class in college, but that doesn't mean that I can't, get the information elsewhere. And
Mhm.
I'm very self motivated. So that fit me too.
You knew that you wanted to venture into this field, and skincare was top of mind.
Yeah, it was from my mom. So I've watched her struggle for a long time with skin cancer. We live in Texas, and so that heat, the sun is just brutal.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
she told me from a young age, wear SPF every day. Very grateful that she
Yeah.
told me to do that. I hope that pays off. Skincare had been interesting to me for a while. I was very much a dedicated consumer of the beauty world, more skincare and self care than makeup. I never felt overly drawn to that. I'm like, if this already looks good, I don't want to cover it up. So I already had a lot of passion for products. And to this day, my bathroom looks like a Sephora, which is I find to be really fun. But because of that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to see, where would I begin? And so I made a little list of like what makes sense to start with. And so I looked for formulators and for manufacturers because I didn't know anyone in the beauty industry at all. Started from scratch. And I eventually met the person that I work with very closely now from a formulator who's been in beauty for quite a long time. A lovely person. I absolutely love Susan. And she made a great introduction for me that really did change the course of my life, of meeting my closest colleague who's been in beauty for quite a long time. And I knew, I'm glad that I figured this part out, is that you hire for the things you don't know how to do.
Mhm.
And, I raised, almost $1.5 million there at the beginning, which helped us get started, and a very difficult time to raise money, particularly for women. I only raised from angel investors, but women rarely receive 2% of venture funding. Or I think we should change that narrative. Venture funds only give out 2% of the funding in women. A lot of women are
Mhm.
very deserving of that. So, getting to know
Yes.
Paul was instrumental. And so that's how we got into that. And we were able to acquire a fascinating molecule that is proprietary to us. We got a patent on it on beta stem 6. And that was what I really wanted, is a focus on science because of my mom.
Mm. So tell us about what you built then. So you have this molecule. What did you want to bring to the skincare world that wasn't already there? What was that gap that you wanted to fill?
Well, it's rare for a totally new ingredient to hit the market. A lot of
Mm.
times when there's intellectual property owned by a beauty company, it's more of a variation on a theme than something entirely new. And we have an entirely new form of matter in beta stem 6. And Dr. Michael Kahn is the PhD and researcher behind that. He and his team and PhD students worked for 25 years on this. And so they created a molecule that attaches to stem cells, and the ones that are dormant, they get turned back on. And there's nothing like that in the industry. So beta stem 6 is based off of that research. And so it was exciting to be able to provide an alternative, particularly for people who want an active ingredient that's very active, but won't make their skin itchy and uncomfortable and red like retinoids do. Retinoids are
Right.
so uncomfortable. They're very effective, and I use them, but it comes at a cost because you're uncomfortable for a few days after you use it. And beta stem 6 is very comfortable to use. It plays well with other ingredients as well, and safe for people who have sensitive skin, which I do too. So
Mhm.
we've been able to provide an anti-aging solution for people who want that. We've tried hard to stay away from as much anti-aging language as we can, particularly as a woman. I don't want the focus to be on be afraid of aging. I am thrilled, particularly because of my experiences with accidents and chronic health conditions. I'm thrilled to be 35. I'm really grateful for that. I hope I'm never afraid of aging, and I for sure never want to contribute to other women feeling that pressure. I grew up in the 90s where being a size 2 meant you were almost too big. Like the
Right.
amount of pressure put on women in that millennial era was extreme. And so I see a lot of women now running companies and building brands that are fighting back against that. It's really lovely to see.
I appreciate that you're concerned with that messaging and that you can find a way to message your products in a different way and still reach that audience who needs them. And that's just incredible to have such a unique product. And it's Michael Morrison is the name of
Yes.
your skincare. So tell us more about how we can find it and what exactly you offer to women.
So we have one product. We have our hero product, Genesis Beta Stem 6 Molecular Serum. It's available on our website, michaelmorrison.com. We're also on Instagram, Michal Morrison Skincare, and people can sign up for emails from us as well. It's been really fun to engage with a community that wants something new. A lot of people are very ingredient driven in our community. We get a lot of emails asking about Beta Stem 6. How does it work? And that made it a very exciting time to launch a skincare company, is that's part of the culture now.
And I have to say your skin does look beautiful. You are
Thank you.
glowing.
That's very
I
nice.
assume you're wearing the product now.
Yes, I use it every day.
It looks like you don't even need anything else on. It just looks like
And that's
very
my goal, like I want to feel comfortable. I don't want to feel the need to cover anything up. I look back to when I was even when you're in middle school, you want to wear makeup because it feels like you're a part of a community of girls starting to wear makeup, or boys now too.
Mhm.
And your skin just looks perfect, when you're that age. I never want to take for granted the age that I am. I think I'm going to enjoy a lot of those different stages. And so having a product that works with your skin, with your own biology to fix itself is really the resource that I would prefer to move into deeper into my 30s with. Mhm.
Absolutely. And now I have to ask how you have had many changes in your life since you began your career. You never probably would have assumed you'd be an entrepreneur in the
No.
skincare field, but are you happy where you are now? Do you have any thoughts of maybe dabbling back in where you began in archaeology, or is this what you're going to be doing for your second act moving forward?
I think I'm going to have a lot of second acts. I think that's what happened with my health experience is it made me feel like the belief that I used to have that there's one path and heaven forbid you step off of it, you're just, kind of screwed. I don't believe that's true at all. You can always reinvent yourself. I believed enough in my own resourcefulness and curiosity to learn something new. I'm sure I'll do it again. I have another idea up my sleeve that's in development and I can't really share anything about it, but it's a connection app that I'm really excited about. Once you learn the basics of how to put a company together, all of a sudden it starts to feel much more like I can do that. And I
Mhm.
want more women to experience that there's definitely an uphill climb of learning about how to run a business. But once you have a lot of those tools at your disposal, you're going to start seeing opportunities everywhere to create other things. I don't know one person, I don't think, that has started a company and that's it. Like they retired after that and they're good to go. There's always this sort of itching to get to the next thing. Um, but it was funny. A couple of weeks ago, I was really thinking to myself, like, I do miss the historical work. And an opportunity to do historical research on a PBS documentary fell right into my lap. And
Oh,
it's only a couple of weeks of work, but I'm glad that I put that intention out into the world, that I was open for part of that to come back my way. And it's sitting on a couch reading. It's not the field work that I used to do, but it's still very close to my heart. And reading books and being paid for it does not hurt.
I love that. So it's the best of both worlds, really.
It really is. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm still learning about that. I got another recent diagnosis with my health that is giving me another opportunity, and I haven't landed anywhere yet. I wish I had something insightful to say, except that I already know how to approach a transition because I've had to do it multiple times. I don't know where that's going to take me yet, but I know that flexibility will be important for me moving forward. When you're first starting a company, that is not as flexible as you think. It really requires a lot of you. So I'm thinking about projects that are shorter term, that are still creative, that I can put my vision toward, but not feel like I'm signing up for 10 years of this. I don't really foresee myself doing that. But the belief in flexibility and the value of flexibility is there now. And I never would have considered that. I only really saw one path for my life prior to the traumatic brain injury. And so that is something I've been able to take from it is flexibility will get you far.
Mhm. That's beautifully said too, and I believe that so much myself that you can start a project and or start a business, and a few
Right.
years later, okay, that's great. I'm gonna sell it and I'm gonna move on to the next. I think that's what you were saying too, that itching of wanting to start something new and keeping it going. That's what an entrepreneur does. I recently sold my first business and it was such
Congratulations.
thank you. And it
That
was
was
just
a
a
big tool.
it was a big after 8 years, and I said, "I wanna sell it when it's at the top." I learned so much through that process, and I've been able to help other people now with the selling of their business. Now I have my coaching business, and who knows what else I'll start. And I think for listeners who are thinking about going into entrepreneurship, it doesn't have to be the next 50 years. It can be
Right.
as long as
Yeah.
you want it.
I
Yeah.
think that's a very good point to be made. I actually have an investor that I admire quite a bit, and he has made a very successful career out of starting things, but not being part of the day to day. He doesn't manage anything. He has an idea, he gets it started. That's where his talent, I think, really lies. And then he hires a great team and becomes, I think, to the best of my understanding, pretty hands off. And then
Yeah.
he moves on to the next thing. And I think that's part of the process of entrepreneurship that I didn't know to be aware of at the beginning, but now I am, is are you an idea and vision person, or do you like the execution of the day to day? That's,
Mm.
I think, rarely the same person. It can be, and I
Yeah.
can do operations. Does it get me out of bed in the morning? Not really. There are people who feel that way. They are thrilled to do the operations, and that's the person you want to hire if you're the visionary. And so I think that could actually be quite a relief for a lot of visionary people. You can get the idea up and going, find people that you respect and trust with this idea, hire them, and get another idea going. You don't have to be in the same position with your company forever. You just need a smart plan. And it sounds like you're the person to go to for that.
Thank you. And it's not as scary that way, I think, to know that you're
Yes.
not
Yep.
committing yourself to something that may not work out and that you can always change. And you don't know what you're going to like about the day-to-day of that business until you get in there. So
Right.
I think that's the fun of it. Learning about yourself, learning about the challenges, fixing that puzzle as you build it. You're in control. What direction do
Yeah.
you want to take that business in and your future in? All right, it's time for our 5 fast cues of the week. Here we go. The first one is name one thing that these different chapters in your life have taught you.
There's so much stuff. I changed enormously as a person through this process. I learned, and with health, with starting a business, I also got divorced during fundraising for my company, which was, I would not wish that on anyone, is how resilient humanity can be. You can feel so vulnerable in the actual moment. And in a year, you will wake up and you will feel okay. You'll feel better than you think that you will. And I've seen that in a variety of people's lives and people that I love, that your resilience, the capacity for resilience is deeper than you think.
Would you recommend taking a leap into a big life change to your best friend?
I think I would. I would just have a plan for you being okay, regardless of how that goes. I would like to approach success and failure with the same amount of preparation. For example, I wish I had held on to another job or taken on contract work, even early on, even with how hard I was working on the business that first year in particular. I would have felt better knowing that I was building a nest egg because you never know how things will go. Even with fundraising, I think we're in a pretty volatile time for fundraising right now, too. So I would tell my friend, absolutely go for the dream. But what practical things do you have in place to support yourself no matter how it goes?
I agree. I like that a lot. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's about to start their second act?
I would be really mindful of the relationships that follow you into the second act. That was one of the more painful things that I learned through that experience with health. I think a lot of people do is some people are meant for a period of time in your life and they can't or won't follow you into the next one. And that can be really painful and feel like you're being left behind. But there's a variety of reasons that can happen. Sometimes people don't have capacity and they're being honest about it. That is hard across the board. But knowing that the friends that you can call in the middle of the night for help, those are the ones you're going to have with you for a long time. And so if you need to say goodbye to someone who's not good for you, whether that's a romantic relationship, putting new boundaries in place with family, to be honest with you, even if you've had a friend for 10 years, they might not fit the next chapter. And that might feel like something that you need to grieve, which I understand. And that's something that I think in the future you'll come to understand for whatever reason why they couldn't join you for your second act. So I would be accepting of that process is what I would encourage.
Great advice. So, what does the next act look like for you? You touched upon a project or two that are in the works. What would you like it to look like?
I want the flexibility to work probably with a couple different clients. I started working as a startup advisor to a really cool CPG company. And I'm liking the flexibility, there's that word again, of working with multiple people, not having to take full responsibility for the success of my own thing. That also feels really great right now, is being able to be supportive of other people's dream, but to know at the end of the day, I'm not on the hook for the success or failure of this enormous venture. I get to walk alongside people having their own experience with it and hopefully lending the wisdom that I've gotten from the past few years to that process. I particularly love working with women who are starting companies for the first time, which is really exciting. And I really enjoy helping people, go around the potholes that you might not know are there. I really could have used that. And I got, good advisors around me, probably like year two in particular. Everybody needs that friend next to them. So I'm hoping to be that for more people. And I'm hoping to have the lifestyle flexibility to have more active rest incorporated into my routine. It has been, and I'm sure you know, as I'm sure you know, full speed ahead for years. That's hard on anybody. And then you add in disability or chronic illness challenges, and it ends up being honestly a little bit of a nightmare sometimes. And so I need to figure out in my next act what feels like very high value opportunities with people that I really enjoy and trust, and balancing that with naps on a beach somewhere. That's the goal.
Oh, that is the goal. And,
Yeah.
and it's probably easier than we think to plan that into our year ahead. But it's
Yeah.
hard when you've got all those ideas and all the things
Yeah.
you want to do, but knowing that you can't serve anyone if you are not healthy and rested yourself. So,
Yeah. And I think that's a good point to make. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who I think that era of, burning the candle at both ends doesn't really matter what happens to your health. I think because of COVID, in a way, some people who would have participated in that culture realized like health really is everything. If you completely burn yourself out and there's nothing left to work with, you might lose your idea too. And
yeah.
so, family and friends or your own health. I know someone who had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago at 38 years old and just like would not have seen it coming ever. He's going to be fine, but he's making some big changes because he has to. And I don't want anyone to ever get there. He didn't think he was getting there, but stress really can hurt your body. And so being
Mhm.
mindful of that and building a life that's feasible, even if that means building at a slower pace and being more methodical, we're going to the moon and we're doing it in a month. That's what will take you a long way.
Oh, brilliant ideas. I love everything that you're sharing. So, how can my audience connect with you? Where are all the places?
Well, I'm on Instagram, which I enjoy. I've recently got onto Threads and made really fun friendships on Threads. And how I've heard it described is it's like the diary, of social media is if you like to read, if you're a thinker, and I never enjoyed Twitter. It felt very misogynistic on there to me. And so I never
Right.
hopped on. But Threads, I'm finding this beautiful community of supportive women. A lot of entrepreneurs are on there. And I'm interested in a lot of different things. And so it's fun with the algorithm to surround yourself with people who have great insight. And so I'm on there as well. And then, of course, the brand is on Instagram as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to link to everything in the show notes. And Michael, I just thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And I am so inspired by your transitions and everything that you've built so far. And I'm excited to follow along and see what's next.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been lovely to talk with you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success. If you are thinking about starting a business in 2025 and you're looking for a little guidance on how to get you there, head over to secondactsuccess.co and book a call with me. Let's have a chat about your goals to see if I can better support you as you transition from where you are to where you want to be. Go to secondactsuccess.co and click on that green button to book a call or grab a link in the show notes below. I am excited to meet with you and to help you as you start your second act in 2025.